The massive ship appeared in Earth's sky on a quiet Tuesday morning. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, gleaming like polished metal in the sunlight. People could see it from the ground without telescopes. It hung there, silent and threatening, above the blue Earth. In the United Earth Defense Council's emergency bunker, leaders from different countries watched their screens with worry. The alien ship was 3 times the size of their biggest space station. General Lee spoke first, his voice steady despite his fear. "They're asking to talk to us." The ship belonged to the Galactic Empire, a group that ruled most of the known space. They had found Earth 6 months ago, but this was their first visit. The Empire's message appeared on all screens in the bunker. Their commander, Kita, looked almost human except for his silver skin and completely black eyes. "People of Earth," Kita said, his voice deep and clear. "Your planet sits in our territory. We have watched you. You are young but dangerous. We cannot let you continue to grow without control. You have 2 choices: join us and obey our rules, or face our warriors in combat." Park Ji-won was fixing an air conditioner when she heard the news. She didn't look up from her work, even when her friend ran into her workshop shouting about aliens. "Pass me that wrench," she said, pointing to her toolbox. The air conditioner was more important right now. It was summer, and the hospital needed cooling. Ji-won had a simple way of looking at things. Machines needed to work properly. People needed to take care of their equipment. These were basic truths to her. She had learned this lesson early, fixing her father's car shop machines since she was young. Back in the bunker, the council argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight with armies. Others wanted to give up. Then someone mentioned the incident from last year, when an alien scout ship crashed in Korea. Before anyone from the military could reach it, a local mechanic had already fixed its engine and made it work better than before. That mechanic was Park Ji-won. "The Empire is proud," said Admiral Song, looking thoughtful. "They respect strength, but they only think of strength as fighting skill. What if we show them a different kind of strength?" The council members looked confused when they heard the plan. Send a mechanic, just one person. But Admiral Song explained more. Ji-won didn't just fix the scout ship. She improved it. She understood alien technology in ways that even their best scientists didn't. And there was something else. She got very, very angry when she saw poorly maintained machines. When Ji-won got the call, she was still fixing the air conditioner. The council explained the situation. The Empire's ship needed to be inspected for safety reasons, they said. Would she go? Ji-won thought about the scout ship she had fixed, about its beautiful engine that had been treated so badly. She thought about the Empire's huge ship up there, probably full of more mistreated machines. "I'll go," she said, "but I need to finish this air conditioner first. And I'm bringing my tools." The Empire's warriors were waiting when they heard Earth's answer. They expected armies, tanks, or space fighters. Instead, they got a message. "Earth accepts the challenge. We are sending our champion, one maintenance mechanic with a toolbox." Commander Kita couldn't believe it. He watched through his ship's windows as a small Earth shuttle approached. Inside was a single human woman carrying a wrench and wearing stained work clothes. He laughed, thinking Earth had gone crazy. But Kita didn't see what others noticed. He didn't see how Ji-won looked at his ship with narrow eyes. He didn't notice how she gripped her wrench tighter when she heard the engine's uneven sound. He didn't know that this quiet mechanic had already spotted 15 things wrong with his ship's systems. The Empire had sent their greatest warriors to Earth. Earth had sent one angry mechanic with a wrench. The battle was about to begin, but not in the way anyone expected. Park Ji-won stepped out of the Earth shuttle carrying only 2 things, her toolbox and her favorite wrench. The wrench was old and worn, but it fit perfectly in her hand. She had used it to fix everything from broken cars to alien spaceships. The Empire's warriors watched her with confusion as she walked into their massive landing bay. The landing bay was huge, filled with sleek fighter ships that would have impressed most humans. But Jai-1 didn't look at the fighters. Instead, she stared at the ceiling, where large maintenance robots hung inactive. Their joints were rusty. She could hear them creak in the artificial wind of the ventilation system. Commander Kita walked toward her, his silver armor gleaming. Behind him stood 20 of the Empire's best warriors, each wearing similar armor, but in different colors. They looked impressive and dangerous. Jai-1 looked at their armor and noticed the poorly maintained joint servos. "This is Earth's champion?" Kita asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "A maintenance worker?" Jai-1 didn't answer him immediately. She was listening to the sound of the ship's engines. The sound was wrong. It reminded her of the time she fixed the fusion reactor at Seoul's main power plant. Everyone had said it couldn't be fixed. She had fixed it in 6 hours with basic tools and a lot of determination. "Your engine timing is off," she said finally, still not looking at Kita. "And those maintenance robots haven't been serviced in at least 2 years. The Empire's warriors laughed. But their chief engineer, Tai Yang, stopped laughing when Jai-1 pointed at the ceiling. "The support beam above your best fighter ship is cracked. If those robots fall, they'll crush your ship." Everyone looked up. Tai Yang's face changed color when he saw she was right. The crack was small, but it was there. No one had noticed it before. "We're not here to discuss maintenance," Kita said sharply. "We're here for combat trials. You will face our warriors in tests of strength and skill." Jai-1 finally looked at him. She had seen that kind of attitude before, in young mechanics who cared more about looking good than doing their job right. "When was the last time you checked your armor's power core?" she asked. Kita blinked in surprise. "What?" "Your armor, the power core. It's making a high-pitched sound. That means the containment field is weak. If it fails during combat, the explosion would kill everyone in this room." The warriors' confidence wavered. Some of them took steps back, suddenly aware of the faint whine coming from their commander's armor. G1 pulled a small scanner from her toolbox. She had built it herself after studying the crashed scout ship. It could read any kind of technology. "I'll make you a deal," she said, holding up her wrench. "Let me fix your ship's problems. If I can't make your systems work better than they ever have before, you can have Earth. But if I succeed, you have to admit that understanding technology is just as important as knowing how to fight." The warriors looked at their commander. Kita looked at Jai-1's worn work clothes, her simple tools, and the determined look in her eyes. He remembered stories about Earth, about how humans could make machines do impossible things. "You have one day," he said finally. Jai-1 nodded and walked straight to the nearest maintenance panel. She opened her toolbox, grabbed her wrench, and got to work. The warriors watched in silence as she began fixing their ship, not knowing that every repair gave her more knowledge of their systems, more control over their technology. The real battle was about to begin, fought not with weapons, but with wrenches and wisdom. And in this kind of battle, Park Jae-won had never lost. The Empire's engine room was massive. Towers of gleaming metal reached up into darkness. Blue light pulsed through transparent pipes. The air smelled like hot metal and ozone. To most people, it would have looked impressive. To Park Jae-won, it looked like a mess. Chief Engineer Tai Yang followed her as she walked through the engine room. He didn't want her there, but Commander Kita had ordered him to show her everything. Behind them walked Hanul, the second-in-command warrior, watching Jai-1's every move. "Your coolant pipes are backwards," Jai-1 said, pointing with her wrench. "You're using twice as much power as you need to." Tai Yang's face turned red. That's how they were designed. The Empire's engineers. "Made a mistake," Jai-1 finished. She walked to a large control panel and opened it. Inside, the wires were tangled like spaghetti. She sighed. It reminded her of the time she had fixed her neighbor's robot vacuum cleaner. The neighbor had tried to upgrade it himself and made everything worse. Hanul stepped forward. "You dare to criticize the Empire's technology. Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy." Jai-1 didn't look up from the panel. Advanced doesn't mean well-maintained. Look at these power readings. Your engine is running at 60% efficiency. That's terrible. She reached into the panel with her wrench. Tai Yang moved to stop her, but He Newell held him back. They had all seen how she found the crack in the landing bay. They watched as she adjusted something inside the panel. The engine's deep humming changed, becoming smoother. 70% efficiency now, Jai-1 said. Still bad, but better. Tai Yang checked his own scanner. His eyes widened. She was right. The engine was running better after just one small adjustment. He Newell looked impressed, despite trying to hide it. Commander Kita wants to see you, He Newell said. It's time to discuss the combat trials. Jai-1 closed the panel. Your combat suits won't work properly with the power system like this. One good hit, and they might shut down. They took her to the command center. It was a large room with windows showing the earth below. Kita stood there with his warriors. Their armor gleamed, but Jai-1 could hear the wrong sounds coming from their power cores. The trials will test your strength, speed, and skill, Kita announced. You will face 3 of our best warriors. Jai-1 held up her scanner. Your warrior's armor is running on emergency power. The main power cores are almost dead. Did no one teach you about maintenance schedules? The warriors shifted uncomfortably. Some of them checked their armor's status displays. Kita frowned. We are here to fight, not discuss maintenance, he said. Fighting with broken equipment isn't brave, Jai-1 replied. It's stupid, like trying to win a race with flat tires. A young warrior laughed, then quickly stopped when Kita looked at him, but others were nodding. They had all noticed their armor wasn't working as well as it used to. 1 hour, Jai-1 said. Give me 1 hour to show you what's wrong. After that, if you still want to fight, we'll fight. But wouldn't you rather have working equipment first? Kita looked at He Newell, who nodded slowly. They had seen enough to know this human understood their technology better than they did. It was not what they had expected from Earth's champion. 1 hour, Kita agreed. But then the trials begin. Jai-1 picked up her toolbox. She had 1 hour to prove that fixing things was more important than breaking them. 1 hour to show that a wrench could be more powerful than any weapon. She smiled. 1 hour was more than enough time. The first combat trial was scheduled for the early morning. Commander Kita had arranged for his warriors to gather in the ship's main training arena. But when they arrived, they found Park J1 already there, halfway inside an open wall panel. We can't start, she said, not turning around. The gravity controls in this room are unstable. Someone could get hurt. Kita crossed his arms. The gravity systems are perfect. We checked them yesterday. Jai-1 pulled her head out of the panel and held up her scanner. Look at these readings. The gravity will fail in the next 10 minutes. Unless you want your warriors floating around like soap bubbles, we should fix this first. As if to prove her point, a small tool that had been on the floor suddenly floated up into the air. The warriors stared at it. Kita's face showed both anger and embarrassment. How long will repairs take? He Newell asked, watching as more objects began to float. 2 hours, if you help me, Jai-1 replied. She tossed her wrench to Tai Yang, who caught it in surprise. You can start by removing that damaged power coupling. The second trial was planned for the afternoon. This time, they would test speed and agility in the ship's obstacle course. But when the warriors arrived in their combat suits, Jai-1 was waiting with a serious look on her face. The ventilation system is pumping engine exhaust into this area, she explained. You'll all pass out if you try to run the course. She pointed to the ceiling. Someone reversed the airflow. Probably happened when they installed the coolant pipes backwards. Tai Yang checked his own instruments and turned pale. She was right again. The air was becoming toxic. They had to evacuate the area and spend 3 hours fixing the problem. Jai-1 showed them how to properly configure the air filtration system, teaching them things about their own ship they had never known. The third trial was supposed to be a test of battle tactics in the ship's combat simulation room. But when Kita tried to start the simulation computers, nothing happened. Power surge damaged the main processor, Jai-1 said, already opening her toolbox. But I can fix it. Hand me that circuit tester, please. Commander Kita watched as his warriors, including Hainul, worked alongside the human mechanic. They were learning more about their ship and equipment than they had in years of training. Even Tai Yang was asking questions now, eager to understand how she knew so much about their technology. You planned this, Kita said suddenly, watching Jai-1 teach a young warrior how to properly maintain his armor's power core. All these accidents and problems. You're making us fix our own ship instead of fighting. Jai-1 straightened up and looked him in the eye. I didn't plan anything. Your ship has been telling me what it needs. Machines always do if you listen to them. The real question is, why weren't you listening? Before Kita could answer, a loud alarm started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. The ship's computer announced, "Warning. Critical system failure detected in main engine core. Containment breach imminent." Jai-1 picked up her wrench. That's what happens when you ignore maintenance for too long. Now, do you want to keep planning fights, or do you want to help me save your ship? The warriors looked at their commander. For the first time, Ki-tae realized that all their advanced weapons and combat training meant nothing if their ship exploded. He nodded to Jai-1. "Lead the way, mechanic," he said. "We'll follow your instructions." Jai-1 was already heading toward the engine room, her mind racing with calculations and repair plans. The real challenge wasn't going to be fighting the Empire's warriors. It would be fixing years of neglect before it was too late. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the massive ship. The engine's normal hum had turned into a dangerous roar. Park Ji-1 ran through the corridors toward the engine room, with Commander Kita and his warriors close behind her. Their heavy boots echoed against the metal floor. "The containment field is failing," Tai Yang shouted, looking at his scanner. "We have 20 minutes before total collapse." Jai-1 reached the engine room's main door. It was sealed shut, locked down by the ship's safety systems. The warriors raised their weapons, ready to blast it open. "Stop," Ji-1 shouted. "If you damage that door, the radiation will kill everyone." She moved to the control panel and opened it with her wrench. Inside, she quickly connected 2 wires. The door slid open smoothly. The engine room was filled with blue lightning. Energy arced between the towers of machinery. The air itself seemed to crack with power. The warriors stepped back, their weapons useless against this kind of threat. "Your automated systems made this worse," Jai-1 explained, checking her scanner. They tried to fix the problem by increasing power to the containment field, but the power conduits are damaged. More power means more damage. Hainul looked worried. "Can't we just shut everything down?" "A cold shutdown would trigger an explosion," Tai Yang said. His face was pale. "The energy has to go somewhere." Jai-1 was already moving through the engine room. She had studied the scout ship's engines for months. This was the same design, just bigger. She knew what to do, but she needed help. "Kita, take 4 warriors and go to the backup control room," she ordered. The commander started to object, but she continued. "Hainul, you and 3 others go to the power distribution center. Tai Yang, stay with me. Everyone else, evacuate the ship. Now." To everyone's surprise, Kita nodded. "Do as she says," he commanded. The warriors ran to their positions. Jai-1 turned to Tai Yang. "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" The Empire's chief engineer looked at the human mechanic who had seen every problem before it happened. He nodded. "We're going to redirect the power," she explained, opening her toolbox. "Not to the containment field, but through the whole ship. Every corridor, every room will help absorb the energy. The ship itself becomes the containment field." They worked fast. Jai-1's hands moved quickly, reconnecting systems that hadn't been touched in years. She talked through her radio to Kita and Hainul, telling them exactly what switches to flip and buttons to press. The ship's computer counted down the minutes until collapse. Warriors who had trained for battle now fought against time, following a mechanic's orders to save their lives. With 2 minutes left, Jai-1 made the final connection. Energy flowed through the ship's walls like blood through veins. The blue lightning disappeared. The roaring stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the ship's lights came back on, brighter than before. The engine's hum returned, smoother than it had ever been. Power efficiency at 95%. The computer announced, all systems operational. In the engine room, Tai Yang stared at his scanner in disbelief. The ship was running better than when it was new. He looked at Jai-1, who was already checking other systems with her wrench. "How did you know this would work?" he asked. Jai-1 smiled slightly. "Machines want to work properly. They tell you what they need if you listen. Your ship has been trying to tell you something was wrong for years." She closed her toolbox. "Maybe now you'll start listening." Through the engine room windows, Earth was visible, peaceful, and blue. The warriors had come to conquer it. Instead, they had learned that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in weapons or combat skills, but in understanding how things work and caring enough to fix them. Word spread quickly through the Empire's ship about what happened in the engine room. Warriors gathered in small groups, talking about how the human mechanic had saved them all. They watched as Park Ji-1 continued her work, moving from system to system, making improvements they had never thought possible. Commander Kita found her in the ship's medical bay. She was fixing the healing pods that hadn't worked properly in months. Her wrench moved with careful precision as she adjusted each machine. "The warriors want to know when the combat trials will resume," Kita said, but his voice had lost its commanding tone. Jai-1 tightened one last bolt and closed the panel she was working on. "Your healing pods now work at full power," she said. "They'll heal injuries twice as fast." She turned to face him. "Do you still think fighting is more important than fixing what's broken?" Before Kita could answer, Hainul rushed into the medical bay. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, holding up a data tablet. "Chief Engineer Tai Yang has been running tests on our systems. Everything the mechanic fixed. The improvements are incredible." The data showed what Jai-1 had accomplished in just 1 day. Engine efficiency was higher than factory specifications. Power consumption was down by 40%. The ship's weapons systems, which she had barely touched, worked better because of the improved power flow. "I don't understand," Kita said, looking at the numbers. "How can small repairs make such a big difference?" Jai-1 picked up her toolbox. "Everything is connected," she explained, "like a body. If your leg hurts, you walk differently. Then your back starts to hurt. Fix the leg and everything works better." She pointed to the healing pods. "Your machines are the same way. One small problem affects everything else." Tai Yang entered the medical bay, carrying more test results. His usual proud expression had changed to one of respect. "The humans' repairs," he said to Kita. "They don't just fix problems. They make our systems work together better. It's like she can hear what the machine needs." "That's because I listen," Jai-1 said simply. "Machines tell you what's wrong. The sounds they make, the way they move, the power readings. Everything tells a story. You just have to pay attention." Kaita looked around the medical bay. The healing pods hummed quietly, their screens glowing with steady blue light. He thought about how close they had come to disaster in the engine room, how all their advanced weapons had been useless against a failing containment field. "The combat trials are canceled," he announced. Hainul and Tai Yang nodded in agreement. "Park Ji-1 has shown us a different kind of strength, one that we had forgotten." Jai-1 smiled slightly. "Good, because there's still work to do. Your life support systems need maintenance, the artificial gravity needs balancing, and someone really needs to fix those maintenance robots in the landing bay." To everyone's surprise, Kita picked up a tool from her box. "Then teach us," he said. "Show us how to listen to our machines the way you do." The other warriors followed their commander's example. Soon, the proud warriors of the Empire were learning how to use wrenches instead of weapons. They discovered that victory doesn't always come from destroying things. Sometimes, it comes from understanding how things work and making them work better. 3 days had passed since the engine room crisis. The Empire's massive ship now ran better than ever before. In the main landing bay, Park Ji-won stood with Commander Kita and Hae-nul, watching as warriors and engineers worked together to repair the maintenance robots. "Your warriors learn quickly," Ji-won said, nodding as she watched a young warrior carefully adjust a robot's joint. "They have good hands for repair work." Keita looked at his people with pride. But it was different now. They were proud not of their fighting skills, but of what they could fix and improve. "We were wrong about Earth," he admitted. "We thought strength only meant the ability to fight." Hae-nul stepped forward, holding up his armor's power core. It glowed with steady blue light, no longer making the dangerous whining sound. "You've taught us that real power comes from understanding," he said, "from taking care of what we have." Tai Yang approached them, carrying a data tablet. The chief engineer had changed the most over the past few days. He now spent hours learning from Ji-won, asking questions about everything she did. "The ship's computer has finished analyzing all the improvements," he reported excitedly. "Energy efficiency is up by 60%. Combat systems are 30% more accurate because of the stable power flow. Even the food preparation units work better." Ji-won smiled as she remembered fixing the food units. The warriors had been amazed when their meals started tasting better. "Small things matter," she said. "A machine that's well cared for will take care of you back." A young warrior ran up to them, his face excited. "Master Ji-won," he called out. The other warriors had started calling her that, treating her with the same respect they showed their combat teachers. "We fixed the robot's targeting system, just like you showed us." The maintenance robot above them moved smoothly now, its joints no longer creaking. It picked up a piece of equipment with perfect precision. The warrior beamed with pride. "See," Ji-won said to Kita, "your people understand more than just fighting. They just needed a chance to learn something different." Commander Kita watched as more of his warriors gathered around the maintenance robot, discussing its systems and suggesting improvements. These were the same warriors who had laughed at Ji-won when she first arrived. Now they hung on her every word about proper maintenance and repair. "The Empire has forgotten something important," Kita said thoughtfully. "We became so focused on conquest that we forgot how to take care of what we already had. We thought new weapons would make us stronger. But you showed us that true strength comes from understanding and maintaining what we have." Hae-nul nodded in agreement. "Our combat training taught us to look for weaknesses to exploit, but you taught us to look for problems to fix. It's a better way." Ji-won pulled out her worn wrench, the tool that had helped save the ship. "A weapon can only break things," she said. "But a tool like this, it can make things better. It can improve things. That's real power." The warriors gathered around them nodded. Many now carried tools along with their weapons. They had learned that fixing was harder than breaking, that maintaining was more challenging than destroying, and they had learned these lessons not from combat, but from one determined mechanic with a wrench and the wisdom to listen to machines. 1 week after Park Ji-won first stepped onto the Empire's ship, she stood in the main command center with Commander Kita. Through the large windows, they could see Earth shining blue and peaceful below them. The ship's engines hummed with a smooth, healthy sound that made Ji-won smile. "The Emperor has reviewed our reports," Kita announced, holding up a data tablet. His voice was formal but friendly. He was very interested in what happened here. Ji-won looked up from the control panel she was checking. In just 1 week, she had taught the Empire's warriors and engineers more about their own technology than they had learned in years. The ship now ran better than any other vessel in the Empire's fleet. What did the Emperor say? Hey Newell asked. He stood nearby, wearing his newly maintained armor. A tool belt now hung next to his weapon belt. Kita smiled. He wants to start a new program. The Empire will send engineers and warriors to Earth to learn from human mechanics. In return, Earth will help us improve our technology across the whole Empire. Tai Yang, who was working on a computer system nearby, turned around quickly. Really, we can learn from more human mechanics. Not just learn, Kita said. The Emperor wants Park Jae-won to be in charge of the program. He says anyone who can make our best warship run 60% better without weapons deserves to teach others. Jae-won closed the control panel she had been checking. Will your warriors accept being taught by humans? She asked. A week ago, you thought we were too primitive to join your empire.